Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports, the Juneteenth edition, as you all call it. We're live and live in color right here in Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Community, which is she. I am City Brownhead, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow McKenna McGee on the Twitter and McKenna's going to the IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. You want to know why? Because we said so, that's why. And also, so you can catch up on our other live shows today. We have airing throughout the week. So if you happen to miss them, you can go back and watch them and listen to them at your own leisure. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. Speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, you can always follow us on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please find Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And you want to subscribe to our podcast, we know that many of you have. For those of you that haven't, let me tell you where you can go. You can go to War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast today. And speaking of War Media, please go ahead and give us a follow on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, that's at War Media, WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always hit us up in the comment section at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Typing in questions and comments in the comments section, Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly or stupid, I've given Lakina full power to give you fools the beer, blame beer boot.
Bye-bye.
But before we begin, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your personal PC like Lakina's using right now, or your Chromebook like I'm using right now. Just tap on that Google Play app, go to the Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV.
Anytime, anywhere you like.
And you know we will provide.
We'll provide, and look, if you guys celebrate Happy Juneteenth to everyone out there, if you are celebrating, if you have the day off from work and you're listening to us or watching us for the first time, welcome. Don't be strangers here. Now we got a lot to do today. Second City Sports. We got a busy weekend in baseball. Then we've got, of course, crazy things happening in the NBA, which you didn't think you would be talking about the NBA in the middle of June, but here we are. Also, too, a new U.S. Open champion is crowned in Los Angeles, and I got a whole lot more. So, where do you want to start off with our baseball talk?
Let's go for some good news for a change, and let's start off with the North Siders, the Chicago Cubs. Yes, they lost yesterday to the Baltimore Orioles, 8-3 on the North Side. Their 5-game winning streak came to 6-3 rather. Their 5-game winning streak came to a halt. But the Cubs in their last homestand went 5-1. With the loss, including their loss yesterday. But Lakina, before yesterday's game, during that 5-game winning streak, we told you that the Cubs offense should be fine, especially now with the return of Cody Bellinger to the lineup. They were averaging 8 runs a game during that 5-game winning streak. As we also said in previous shows, that their starting pitching has been excellent. Now, Jameson Taillon didn't pitch that bad yesterday. The Cubs had the lead for a minute, but Baltimore fought their way back and took the lead in the later innings and ended up winning the ball game. But Marcus Stroman has been impressive. Cal Hendricks looks like we started to see some signs of his early days here in Chicago. And also to not Drew Smiley, although he's been doing well too. Justin Steele made his return to the starting mount last Friday in that series opener against Baltimore. He pitched well. So as we said before with this Cubs team, you get enough offense to go with a good starting pitching. This team should be competitive. They're more than competitive. Now they're within striking distance in a pitiful National League Central Division race.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough. Yeah, of course, you would love that if the Cubs had swept the Orioles, but you know what, though, you'll take it. I mean, I saw Julio Urias' did an interview after that win. It was on Peacock, folks, by the way. I saw
Mm-hmm.
his interview after the game. He said, "Look, we didn't want to get swept, so they were very determined they didn't want to get swept on the road. So that's what
Mm-hmm.
happened there. Now, it was a solid series. I mean, look, you take it. Look, you win 2 out of 3 as against one of the top teams in the not just in the American League, but also probably all of
Mm-hmm.
baseball, and also too in some ways even dominating fashion. You got to be feeling pretty good. You've won 5 of your 6 at home. You won 7 of your last 9. You got to be feeling pretty good if you're a Cubs fan right now. Everybody seems to be starting to kind of heat up a little bit. Both the batting, like you said, Steele had a great outing on Saturday. Nico Horner, had the clinching hit, that helped broke that game open. He actually had a pretty solid series. Talking about Horner did, and look, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Morel homered, in that Friday game where they basically pummeled the Orioles 10-3. So yeah, I think look, you're gonna be feeling pretty good if you're a Cubs fan right now. Look, did the bullpen kind of like let some games slip away? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's still a little bit of an adventure seeing the bullpen sometimes, but you know what though? Look, they're 33 and 38, I should say. They're right there in this striking distance in the NL Central. We'll talk about the rest of the Central after the break, but
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Considering where a lot of people thought that the Cubs would be, you gotta be feeling pretty good if you're a Cubs fan right now.
Yes, even though the offense picked it up during that 5-game winning streak, Seiya Suzuki is struggling at the plate right now, at least in these last couple of games, along with Dansby Swanson. But we mentioned Christopher Morel. He started off hot when he was called up early last month. He cooled off, which happens to everybody, but he's picked it back up again. You saw what he did with this bat in the Pittsburgh series, as you mentioned, with that home run to start off the series last Friday against Baltimore. So it looks like he's starting to pick it up. I hate to say it, but he's their version of Jake Burger. You need to get his bat in the lineup every day, where he's playing third base, the outfield, or he's your occasional DH. Christopher Morel needs to be in the lineup every day. And how about giving a little credit? Call me crazy, Lakina, but a little credit to Nick Madrigal. I know he's not the world's greatest hitsman when it comes to that bat, but he's been actually playing a little above average defense at third base. I know he started there yesterday, and so they like you said, it looks like things are starting to come together for this Cubs team slowly, especially with the guys returning from injury. They still have a tough road ahead this week. They go to Pittsburgh for 3 games, who they swept last week here, and then you have the day off on Friday to go to London, and where you face the St. Louis Cardinals next weekend for 2 games overseas.
Yeah, that should be interesting. We'll talk more about that on Friday. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, it's just a pretty well for the Cubs. Look, I'm sure the Pirates going to want to get their revenge, especially after they got swept by the Brewers over the weekend. We'll talk about that in a second. And look, I mean, the schedule is set up for the Cubs to kind of try to gain some ground and be right there in that division. I know the Brewers, like I said, the Brewers swept the Pirates, but they're not going to pull away from that division. And look, there's still a lot of things that could happen. I know since he's been playing pretty well right now. But with De La Cruz, kind of emerging, but I don't think I know they're only a half game back now, but I don't think they're going to be around. I just don't see it happening. So yeah, I think look, if they could take care of business about the Cubs and maybe see if they can kind of take advantage of that part of the scheduling. The Cardinals aren't very good, so you can try to win at least both those games, if not one, at least split it.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps maybe try to split it. I mean, take the series against the Pirates again. We could be right there. So.
Yeah, because like you mentioned with that schedule, like for the Cubs, after this coming week, it gets tougher when you open up the month of July. If you have home games against Cleveland and Boston those following weekends, it's going to get tough. So they have to take advantage of this right now.
Yeah, they do, and yeah, I mean that's why I say it gets a little bit tougher after that stretch against St. Louis. But yeah, you got try to take it one series at a time. You can't look too far, and just see if you can kind of perhaps take advantage of the fact that the division is not good and the Brewers aren't pulling away.
Yeah, agree.
All right, as you know, we're gonna listen to Second City Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, with you. Let's go. Well, actually, you know what? Before that, like I said, I mean, after that St. Louis series, they got 3 against Philly. They got 3 against Cleveland. Then they played the Brewers for 4. So, and they play the Yankees after that to in that stretch before the All-Star break. So yeah, it gets a little bit tougher. So try to win these series, try to win the games, and perhaps try to gain some ground in that division.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to be a tough road for the Cubs. Looking at those teams ahead, we talked about Philly. We'll get into the rest of the league after the timeout. But Philadelphia's starting to come on strong. The Yankees, they may have Aaron Judge by the time the Cubs play them in a couple of weeks or so. In Cleveland, then even though they're in a free for all, they won yesterday. looks like they may be turning around by the time you play them. So you have to take advantage of these games right now against quote unquote lesser opponents.
Absolutely. And so, Sid, let's go to the South Side right now. I know. You were trying to avoid it. I know you have, but yeah. Unfortunately, the Sox lose 2 out of 3 to the Mariners in Seattle. That's despite yesterday's game. Lance Lynn having 16 strikeouts, which is career high for him. But unfortunately, they just just couldn't get it going. They took you probably can say that Pedro Grifol kept him out there too long. But we know Lance Lynn, he probably snuck it out there in the night. So.
But that was actually a good decision because your bullpen was used up the first 2 games of that series.
But even still, I mean, that I don't know. I mean, I think that he's like 130 pitches, but that was still, like I said, probably one of his best performances. Like I said, his 16 strikeouts is a career high for him. But even still, I mean, he still had a shot to perhaps maybe at least take 2 of the 3 games in Seattle. But our guy Julio Rodriguez is now the member of the 40-40 club, 4 home runs, 40 stolen bases club. So look, I mean. They did what you're supposed to. Unfortunately for the Sox, I mean, you thought that maybe after that Saturday game where they won the thrill, they came back and won in extras. But then you thought, they went back to the same habits. Despite that, the hitting just could again going to help out Lynn, and it was just again, you're exactly the right spot where you were about a month ago. So for anybody that thought the Sox were back, still waiting.
Here's a perfect summary for this road trip. You're supposed to finish that road trip to 4-2, but losing that Dodgers series, the last game of that Dodgers series, and giving away that game last Friday against Seattle, it's supposed to be a 4-2 road trip, but the opposite happens 2-4. As we talked about, this team is consistently inconsistent, and you saw that throughout this road trip. The offense looks like they want to break out, but it fails to get out their own way. You can hit solo home runs all you want to, but you got to get guys on. Yeah, the Sox can get guys on. It's almost like a struggle, but you got to get them across home plate. Now, yesterday's performance by Lance Lynn, excellent. I do not blame him for yesterday's loss. I blame the lack of offense, the lack of trying, the reason why the White Sox lost yesterday. Saturday's game, at least the ending was terrific. Remillard came in for a quote-unquote injured Tim Anderson. I think that was a benching personally, especially if the guy doubled off of a first base on a bad play last Saturday. But Zach Remillard took advantage of his opportunity, helped the Sox win the only game in Seattle on Saturday. It's a great story. He was in the minor leagues for his entire career. He got called up because of Yohan Moncada's injury last week, but he came through and gave the White Sox a spark. Maybe this still will help the Sox down the road, but right now, after what happened yesterday, you still in doubt if you're a White Sox fan. Of course, they had 3 against the Texas Rangers starting tonight, and it doesn't help. As we said last Friday on our last episode, Mike Clevenger, who was supposed to pitch tonight, he got put on the IL retroactive to last Friday. So it's going to be a tough road for the Sox, but you still got to make hay somehow.
Well, I mean, look, I'm still waiting, Sid. You've been saying that you guys start summer for like the last month, so I'm still waiting for that. And
it's up to them. It is up to them.
Well, look, I think, Remillard, that was great to see. Look, he had a nice little breakout game, literally, got his first, couple of RBIs, helped the Sox win that game, and look, it gave him all the credit in the world. But after that, I mean, look, you had a shot approximately taking that series against Seattle. You didn't do it. Now you come back to play Texas, a pretty solid Texas team, I might add. And then after that, you get the 3 against Boston this weekend. Then after that, it gets tougher. You get 4 against Los Angeles, against the Angels. You might miss. Well, no, you're not going to miss Ohtani. Actually, you're actually going to get him scheduled to pitch next Wednesday. Then you got Oakland. I mean, you should be able to win 2 of those games, if not sweep them. Then you face Toronto. Then you got St. Louis to wrap it up before the All-Star break. So it's a little tough for the Sox. So you better try to at least maybe make some hay with some of these series. If not, I mean, look, we might be seeing a lot of guys go bye. I mean, I saw an interview that Lucas Giolito did, and he's been associated with trade rumors. I know he said he doesn't want to leave, but this team doesn't make a move or perhaps maybe try to get to the part where they can be right there in that division. They haven't been playing like it. I mean, he might be gone. Maybe Tim Anderson, maybe he might be gone. Who else? Maybe Lynn. He had that great outing yesterday, so he might be out as well. So yeah, look, the Sox got a lot. I know Rick Hahn is being a little bit stubborn. Like, well, look, we're not thinking about that. We're going to be buyers in the trade deadline. Yeah, okay.
If you let me say this before we break. If you're more than 5 games out at the All-Star break, you should sell. Let me repeat that one more again, as the kids would say. If you're more than 5 games back at the All-Star break, you should start selling. It's just plain and simple.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, we can keep it simple here on Second City Sports. All right, we're going to talk about the rest of the MLB. The Red Sox get the best of the Yankees again. Like I said, the Brewers sweep the Pirates. And a whole lot more still. So going more on the diver from this weekend. Coming up next, Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. More baseball talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports with a Monday edition. We're live and live in color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
And you can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Kansas McGee on the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left or so left of this extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. If you want to hit us up in the comment section, you can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, let's talk about the rest of the MLB for a second. What caught your attention?
We'll start out with that Red Sox-Yankees series. Of course, Saturday game was rained out, but they made up that game yesterday before that Sunday night showdown. I was really impressed by Boston's offense. Of course, they destroyed the Yankees 15-5, I believe, on Friday night. And, of course, they won 4-1 in the nightcap and 6-2 in the early yesterday in the makeup game. I'm still not impressed by Boston's starting pitching. It doesn't wow me off the stat sheet, but they're doing enough to keep pace in that tough AL East race. And on the flip side for the Yankees, they clearly miss Aaron Judge. Before yesterday's games, I was watching the Yes broadcast, and they had a stat up that said that before yesterday's game, they were 3-9 in 12 games without Aaron Judge this year, and they barely averaged over 3.5 runs a ball game. They clearly miss him. We know Giancarlo Stanton is still a big bat in that lineup, but we all know that Aaron Judge makes everything go for the New York Yankees offensively. So as soon as the Yankees get Aaron Judge back, I think the Yankees will be back on track. On the flip side of Boston, as I mentioned, Justin Turner, the former Dodger, had a great series, especially in the opening game last Friday. Rafael Devers, you know how much I like him, the third baseman slugger for the Red Sox. So it was more so about the Red Sox offense, and then on the flip side, Aaron Judge was dearly missed for the Yankees.
Yeah, they definitely really need him back. So hopefully he'll be back soon from that toe injury. Now Turner, he became the fourth player, I should say, in the Red Sox history during that. The Red Sox Yankees rivalry with at least 6 RBIs in the first 3 innings. That's in that first game that the Red Sox pounded the Yankees. He joins Greg Nels did in '76, of course. Yogi Berra did in '57, and Watt Drope, who did in 1950, respectively. And look. The Red Sox, they've been consistently inconsistent, but slightly better than the White Sox. And I think also, too, the problem is that the division is so low to the AL East. I mean, they're still like 12.5 back, even though they're like 37 and 35. They're 2 games over 500. So go figure with that. As far as the Yankees, I mean, look, I don't know what else you could say. I mean, the Red Sox didn't have to face Cole. And unfortunately, like you said, they really need Aaron Judge back desperately. He can't come back soon enough because it's starting to they're still in third place, but things are starting to kind of get a little bit crowded in that AL wild card. And then if you're the Yankees, you really need him back if you're going to try to contend for that. Because I know the division's over with, but you want to try to get that wild card spot, and it's getting a lot tougher unless you can get Judge back.
Yeah. Let's go over to the NL East, and the division leader, Atlanta Braves. They completed a 4-game sweep over the Colorado Rockies, defeating them in the series finale 14-6 yesterday. Lakina, I did watch a little bit of this game in the beginning, waiting for the sorry-ass White Sox. The Atlanta Braves trailed 5-1 yesterday before coming back to beating the Rockies. Charlie Morton had an awful start the first couple of innings of the game. The Rockies took advantage of it, but my guy, the Oblees had 4 RBI yesterday. Eddie Rosario had 6 RBI as well, as the Atlanta Braves completed the sweep of the Colorado Rockies down there in Hotland and Truist Park. Lakina, I'm not going to sit here and say that the Atlanta Braves are unbeatable, but they're looking pretty damn close. Their bats are really starting to come alive these last 2 weeks.
Especially Acuna Jr.'s bat, and he's the first player in MLB history with 15 home runs and 30 stolen bases in the first 70-plus games of the season. That the record that last year was 71 by Cesar Cedeno with the Astros back in 1974, back when they were in the AL. So that's how long ago that was. But the Braves, I mean, look, I think for me, they're definitely. I know Colorado is not very good, and yes, sweeping the Rockies isn't exactly it's what you're supposed to do, but you gotta be feeling pretty good about what they're doing. Eddie Rosario, he homered twice, like you said, in that thumping. And look, do I think that they're the favorites to win that division? Absolutely. I think they're 5 back of the Marlins right now, last I checked. But they've got so many great squad. Of course, you got Acuna. Of course, you got Rosario, Michael Harris, another guy that's been very good. I know Ozzy Albies. I know that's one of your favorite guys. Matt Olson too. I think he's up there for the National League in home runs. So for me, I think, look, they're a loaded squad in Atlanta. So, look, it's not like, they've come out of nowhere. I mean, they've been doing it consistently for the last few years. So I think for me, if you're Atlanta, you want to try to kind of put yourself and some distance between the rest of your NL East competitors.
Yeah, staying with the NL East, the New York Mets, those sorry-ass New York Mets, they lose 2 out of 3 to the St. Louis Cardinals over the weekend up there in Queens, New York at Citi Field. Lakina, I did watch a little bit of this yesterday. The Cardinals jumped out ahead of the Mets early. The Mets fought their way back. Congratulations to Francisco Lindor, who shaved his head. He just had a newborn child over the weekend. He homered yesterday, but the Mets couldn't hang on. The St. Louis Cardinals scored a couple runs late, and they completed the series win, taking 2 out of 3 in New York City. Lakina, like I said before, and I'll say it again, I don't think firing Buck Showalter is going to do it. Do you have any answers or any formula how to get the Mets back on track? Because right now, with the Miami Marlins doing what they're doing, they swept the Nationals in our nation's capital over the weekend, by the way. With the Miami Marlins holding down that second place, what can the Mets do? Do you think they'll start to sell off at the trade deadline, or you just have to ride this out and see what happens?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to. I think they don't want. Look, remember Diaz is still out. They've had other injuries too, so that's not helping. Verlander's been inconsistent. Scherzer's been inconsistent. Those are your two big money guys, and unfortunately, they haven't been. They've been up and down. So it really is sort of one of those things where I know Mets fans are just losing it right now, but also too, I mean, you're 5 games under. Could you perhaps maybe get back into it? Maybe. Look, you face the Astros starting tonight, so that might be a little bit of a hard thing to do. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to write it out. I mean, there was there was so much expected from the Mets this year, and with everything, like you said, Diaz getting hurt in the World Baseball Classic, then you had some of the other injuries and inconsistencies with some your best pitchers like Verlander and Scherzer. It's just unfortunate that this has sort of been the thing that's happening for the Mets. So I don't know. I mean, you kind of have to write it out to see if we can turn around. But remember, when August 10th comes, I mean, I'm wondering, will you see some of those top guys get the boot and get traded to contenders?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the New York Mets. Now, let's go over to the NL Central. Lakina, you mentioned the Milwaukee Brewers. They swept the Pittsburgh Pirates. But I want to talk about the Cincinnati Reds. They have currently the longest winning streak in Major League Baseball at 8 games. They completed the sweep of the defending world champion history Astros down there in Texas. Shout out to our guy, Brandon Schutz. How you doing, Brandon? But the Cincinnati Reds did it with offense. They blew the game in the 9th inning, but came back in the 10th to win it. Jake Fraley had 3 RBI yesterday. My guy, Ellie De La Cruz, he had an RBI yesterday. And don't forget about Jonathan India. He's also one of those good young hitters that Cincinnati has. I kind of like this team, Lakina. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you that they're going to the playoffs? No. I know they currently sit a half game back of Milwaukee in the NL Central. And am I going to sit here and say they're going to win the division? No, but as I said before, and I'll say it again, they're going to cause some problems for some teams because let's be honest here. No one has placed expectations on the Cincinnati Reds this year. They were supposed to be bad, just like the Oakland A's, but with the addition of Ellie De La Cruz, his energy, his presence has picked up the rest of that ball club. And also, let's give credit to their star pitcher, Hunter Green, who picked up the win on Saturday. He pitched a heck of a game.
Yeah, I mean, look, they kind of reminded me of the Marlins. I think you got a lot of great young players that kind of came out of nowhere and no one really expected them, but they kind of fell off. So I think the same thing's going to happen with them. I mean, look, could they? They'll probably be right there for a division. Do I think they're going to be buyers in the trade deadline? Probably not. They're playing with house money at this point. Though Fraley's making a case to be in the All-Star game. I know De La Cruz has been very solid since being called up. India's been over another solid young hitter. So yeah, look, I mean, look, it's great to see what Cincy's doing. That's a pretty solid young squad. Yes, they're kind of playing for loose and fancy free, but I don't think they're going to be up there for that division or even for the wild card. I just don't, because they just going to see the experience of it and all that stuff. So their pitch is still a little bit, yes, 100 degrees would be really solid for them, but the pitch is still a little bit suspect for me. It gave up 7 runs. You needed a couple of goal ahead, RBI by India to try to win that last game that would have kept the Astros from getting swept. So I'm not there with the Reds yet. Dude, they got some great players, sure, but I'm not going to sit here and say they could contend for the NL Central. I just don't think they can.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. Sid Lakina talking Major League Baseball here with you. Let's go over to the West Coast. And the San Diego Padres looks like they're starting to get back into form. They take 2 out of 3 from the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, they won yesterday's series finale 5-4. Did you check out Fernando Tatis's throw to home plate? He threw out Randy Arozarena. That was an awesome throw, and that was executed to perfection. But Saturday night's game the day before, there was a 2-0 shutout. Blake Snell pitching against his former team. He pitched a well of a ball game, pitching a shutout.
Yeah, I know Snell. I think I heard Snell say he actually circled that game. He struck out all nice of starters, for the second straight start. Becoming just a fourth pitcher to do so since 1961, joining Jacob deGrom, Pedro Martinez, and Randy Johnson. Both the latter two guys did it twice. So that he wanted to kind of make a statement against his former team. And could the Padres perhaps maybe starting to heat up a little bit? I mean, they won 2 other against the Guardians. Early last week, they won 2 out of 3 against the Rockies. You win 2 out of 3 against probably the best team in the league right now. You're starting to kind of heat up a little bit. So yeah, I think, are they starting to turn a corner? Are we finally seeing the Padres squad that we thought we were going to see this year? We'll see. I mean, look, when you thought, because they teased us before earlier this season, they won, I think, 7, they had won 7 of the last, 9, then they ended up losing like 5 of their next 6. So I'm kind of I'm trying to sort of, keep my expectations tempered with the Padres, but they're looking really good so far. Now, one team in the NL West has not looked good is the Dodgers. They get swept by the Giants, including being hammered on that Saturday game, 15-0, and that's the largest home shutout loss in 125 years. The Pirates the Pirates won 15-0 at New Washington Park. So then Brooklyn Dodgers got to go all the way back when that happened. So those two make up the largest home shutout losses in Dodgers history. And of course, once again, Dodgers fans are asking for Dave Robertson's head. So,
which is not going to happen. So relax.
Yeah. So I think people need to just look. This happens a lot during the season. You've had guys in and out of the IL and in and out of the lineup for various reasons. So the consistency is not there. And look, I think the Giants actually look pretty good right now. So I'm not gonna brush the Dodgers off just yet. But look, if you're the Giants, you gotta be Gabe Kapler and the Giants, you gotta be feeling pretty good after that sweep on the road.
Yeah, let's be honest. They probably didn't expect to sweep the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium. Those two teams always have great moments, great games going at each other. Like you said, this is a rivalry originally dates back to when they both played the New York way back when. But staying with this series, Brandon Crawford still hanging around. Lamont Wade Jr. leading at the top of that lineup. You saw what they did 2 years ago, coming out of nowhere, barely beating the Dodgers for that division title. I'm not going to sit here and say you start to see the same vibes again, but San Francisco is doing it quietly. They're always known for a great defense and starting pitcher, but like you mentioned, that offense is starting to pick up, and what a great time to do it, especially against the Dodgers team still trying to find themselves, especially now with the bad bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, Muncie's been out. I know Kershaw's been up and down. So so I'm not there yet about writing the Dodgers off. I mean, we tried that, but they tried it before they ended up winning the division. So I'm not gonna call the Dodgers out just yet. So yeah, but look, I mean, look, that NL West. I mean, the Diamondbacks. We'll see if they're still in it. I mean, look, we'll see if they'll still be up there. I mean, look, I know they lost the last game of that series against the Guardians. They losing 2 out of 3 there, but I'm talking about the Diamondbacks. But look, I mean that West is going to be very competitive. So I think no one's going to run away with that division. It's really going to be like the last team standing. So it could be like a little slugfest for everyone except for the Rockies, the other 4 teams in the West.
I think that's safe to say, going forward with the NL West. Speaking of slugfest, did you check out any action of that Toronto Texas series? Of course, Texas are here in Chicago to take on the White Sox starting tonight. But the Rangers take 2 out of 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays. They beat them in the series finale yesterday, 11-7. Of course, 2-1 and 4-2 were the other scores. So of course, the Blue Jays won the opening game last Friday. Of course, Texas take the last 2. Lakina, Nathan Eovaldi has been impressive to me, the former Red Sox pitcher. Remember, I told you who was going to step up with the injury to Jacob deGrom. Now, I believe he's out for the year. It looks like it's going to be Nathan Eovaldi. You still have Dane Dunning. Remember him, White Sox fans, he was traded for. Lance Lynn. I think Dane Dunning will be looking good in a White Sox uniform right now, but their young pitching, I'm talking about for the Rangers, has stepped up. We know the bats are going to be there, and we saw that especially in yesterday's series finale.
Yeah, I mean, like Corey Seager, as a Keel, Duran, Leody, I'm saying Leody. I think I said his name right. Tavares. I mean, those guys have been really great for that Rangers team. And look, they're one of the reasons why they're leading that AL West right now still. And despite some of the other kind of up and downs, of course, of Grom being out for the year with Tommy John, and that's a tough loss for them. But you hope that doesn't come back to bite them in the butt. But we'll see. Look, Toronto, like I said, I mean, they've been kind of been up and down too. I mean, you got Bo Bichette, Vladdy, George Springer, but for me, it's been their pitching, and unfortunately, you saw what happened. I mean, their pitching gave up 11 runs against the Rangers. So I just don't know what else I can say about the Blue Jays. They've definitely been one of the more disappointing teams in the American, well, all of baseball too. But you guys think that Texas, people thought that Texas was going to make a big move, and look, despite DeGrom being out for the year, they've done just that so far.
Yeah, with the Houston Astros being swept by Cincinnati at home this past weekend, and Texas win 2 out of 3, they starting to create distance between themselves and the Astros. Will they hold up? I don't know, but Texas is looking very good right now.
Absolutely. So let's say in out west, in the AL West. This time we're gonna go to Los Angeles. They win. The Angels win 2 out of 3 against the Royals. Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what more can you say about this guy? I mean, he now has 24 home runs. That's the most by an Angels pitcher all time through June. He's still got 10 more games left this month. The only player with more, himself. He's basically gonna be up against himself because he hit 28 about this time in 2021. So we'll see if we can break that record. Oh yeah, look, there's more after his Saturday start. He's in the top 5 in all of baseball in home run, OPS, batting average, strikeouts, and miss rate at just under 32%. So yeah, that's about. Yeah, I don't think there's any more superlatives you can say about Mr. Ohtani. So, if you like to have more, have at it.
Yeah, especially with Aaron Judge being out right now. Shohei Ohtani, as we said, he's a once in a generational talent. He's clearly your number one candidate for American League MVP. There's no question about it. And don't forget, Mike Trout too is doing it quietly. He had another home run in yesterday's series finale at Kansas City. So
turning the corner.
The Angels are starting to come on. Now, do I take them seriously? I don't know. I'm still in the wait and see approach because remember, for their recent history, they always have a great offense, but their pitching, whether it's bullpen or especially in the starting rotation, has failed them in the past. It's been decent so far, but I got to see a little bit more, at least in the All-Star break, before I start to take them seriously. Offensively, they scare you, but especially with Ohtani and Trout, but their pitching, I got to see a little bit more.
Yeah, that Saturday game, I want to give a little bit of shout out to Samad Taylor, who became the second role to hit a walk off. That's in that Saturday game against the Angels. The other we got going back to Kevin Caesar, I should say, back in '86. Before today, the Royals had lost 178 straight when trailing by 6+ runs in the 7th inning or later. Not a bad way to snap a 10-game snit because they were actually down. They were actually down. I think by 8-3 or 9-3 or something like that in that Saturday game. Of course, that ended up, they ended up winning 10-9. So of course they to avoid the sweep, but unfortunately, the Angels won the rubber match yesterday. So, but still, I mean, look, if you're the Angels, you're facing the Dodgers starting tomorrow. That should be a fun series of the Battle of Los Angeles. So we'll see. I mean, look. I'm kind of in the wait and see mode with some of these teams. I know the Miami Marlins is another team that I feel like we should wait to see. I know they swept the Nationals, but I mean, if you don't sweep the Nationals, you have a bad series. If you don't sweep the Nationals, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, look, we know what they're great. Some of their great talent and such. Some of the great young players on that squad. So I mean. Look, I know Braxton Garrett had a really solid showing in that game yesterday. Brian De La Cruz has been very solid as well. So I'm also kind of the same way with the Angels. I'm kind of in the wait and see approach with the Marlins too.
Another team that I do not take seriously, but they did help out the White Sox yesterday. But the White Sox, unfortunately, cannot help themselves. And that's the Detroit Tigers. They take 3 out of 4 in Minnesota against the Twins. They had a 5-1 lead. They barely hang on to win the series finale. I'm talking about the Tigers 6-4 yesterday. Lakina, it was all about the offense for the Tigers this series. On the flip side for the Twins, they started pitching not so good after Sonny Gray, and their lack of offense is starting to really rear its ugly head right now. I know they lead the division. I'm talking about the Twins with a 36-36 mark, but their lack of offense at times has really reared its ugly head. It came to light this weekend.
Yeah, it really did. I think the Tigers, they took 2 out of 3 from the White Sox. Sorry, Sid, but look, very good showing against your division opponent and the leader. So 3 out of 4 is nothing to sneeze at. So you got they're 5 back. So we'll see if they can build on that. Now, as far as the Twins are concerned, I mean, they're kind of like that team. You wonder, like, could they perhaps maybe. Do you see them making a couple of big moves in the trade deadline? They definitely need another starting pitcher after Gray because they don't have much after him. And that middle relief, even though the bullpen's been very solid, but it could kind of be up and down at times. So I don't know. I mean, I think I don't know if the Twins could perhaps may hang on to that. I mean, that the guard. I know they didn't have the good week, but the Guardians are breathing down their necks. The Detroit's right there. So yeah, I think we'll see. I mean, they play Boston at home. They continue. Hopefully, they can improve that home stand. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, finish up their whole stand, this part of their home stand, but we'll see. I mean, but like I said, they're kind of like the White Sox, a slightly better White Sox, I guess. The inconsistency is starting to kind of show a little bit more. So we'll see.
Very kind of respectful with those words, but very true. And of course, our last series is the Philadelphia Phillies. They swept the Oakland A's out there in the Bay yesterday, winning the last 2 games, winning close games, including Saturday's game, winning to extra innings. As we said before, Lakina, our last couple of shows, after battling some injuries and struggling starts with their key players to start the year, the Philadelphia Phillies are over 500. We talk about the Miami Marlins. Wait and see. Here come the Phillies. They want to challenge the Braves again for the NL East crown. As we talked about, if you're a New York Mets fan, you really have to be worried now. We talk about the Marlins and we talk about the Phillies, but if you're a Mets fan, you got to have a sense of urgency now. But shout out to the Philadelphia Phillies. They're quietly doing their thing. They're over 500 now.
Yeah, they look it up and say, okay, look, we're playing with house money here. I mean, look, Schwarber has been really solid. I think he hit home runs like 2 of those 3 games in that series. So, the pitch has actually been pretty solid too. So, yeah, I mean, look, you got Ali Brown, JT Ramuto. I mean, look, Bryce Harper starting to heat up a little bit. So, look, I think they've won, I believe, 7 of their last 8. Of course, they win, 3 out of 4 against the Diamondbacks, and they end up sweeping the A's. Yes, sweeping the A's, finish up the sweep with them. So they actually played the Braves starting tomorrow. So this could be something that could probably maybe gain some ground a little bit. So we'll see. It should be a fun series.
Yes, it should be a fun series. And bringing up the MLB schedule, here is your schedule for the series that's upcoming for this week, starting tonight. Of course, you have the Texas Rangers battling the White Sox on the south side. That's at 7:10. Of course, you got St. Louis at Washington. Cardinals versus the Nationals. You have Kansas City at Detroit. You have Toronto traveling to Miami to take on the Miami Marlins. Of course, the Cubs and the Pirates will get together in a key NL Central Division showdown. Colorado at Cincinnati. You have Minnesota, as you mentioned, at Minnesota against the Twins. The Diamondbacks at the Brewers. This should be an interesting series. Both first-place teams there in their respective divisions. The New York Mets will travel to Houston to take on the Astros. The Astros are mad after being swept by Cincinnati over the weekend. And, of course, you have the San Diego Padres travel to San Francisco to take on the San Diego Padres taking on the San Francisco Giants by the Bay. Other series that start tomorrow. You have
hey.
Oh, you want to take them? Okay.
Say something for me. Say something for me.
Okay. All right. I'll let you have it.
Some of the series that starts tomorrow. It's take all the case for me. Say something for me. Atlanta and Philadelphia, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, that should be a fun series in the NL East. Trying to gain some ground. The Phillies, they've won 7 in a row, so it should be interesting series. Baltimore and Tampa Bay, that should be a fun series again. In the AL East, you got Kansas City and Detroit. Of course, the first game, the Atlanta Philly series is part of TBS's Tuesday game of the week. You can check that out tomorrow night at 5:40. Seattle and the Yankees. The Yankees are probably not going to be in a very good mood. Speaking of teams not being in a good move, you got okay. Colorado and Cincy. We'll see if Cincy can kind of keep up what they've been doing. You've got Oakland and Cleveland. I'm sure going to be a lot of Sox fans going to be cheering for the A's. You got, of course, you got the Battle of Los Angeles, as we mentioned earlier. That's going to be the second game of that TBS doubleheader. You got the Angels and the Dodgers. They host Angels hosting the Dodgers. That should be an interesting series. You got Clayton Kershaw against Reed Delmers. That should be a fun start for that first game. So, yeah, you got to wonder, the Dodgers are not going to be in a very good mood. So we'll see how they respond against their crosstown rivals.
Yeah, I think this is the first time in a long time that both those teams are over 500 when they play each other.
Yep, I think it's been a while. I can't say the exact date, but I think it has been a while since both these teams have faced each other. They've both been over 500 at the same time. So yeah, that should be a fun one.
Yeah, so that's your schedule for Major League Baseball series that's kicking off today and tomorrow. All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. Sid LaKen hanging out here with you. We got to talk NBA. There's been some movement that's been taking place over the weekend. Looks like more movement is ahead. What does this mean for your Chicago Bulls? Of course, we got Gail Lakina's update from the U.S. Open that concluded yesterday from Live Line Land. Maybe some sports media news. And for continue our Old School TV Monday, June Black Music Month series, you guys are really going to like the show that we're going to salute today. So for those of you that don't know about this show, you're going to get a great history lesson. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
I'm scared.
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up.
My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention.
It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You find McKenna McGill on the Twitter and McKenna's going to be on the IG.
We have 55 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in your questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV.
All right, Sid. So we thought that we always say the NFL, usually doesn't operates 365 days a year. I think the NBA is trying to, kind of compete with that. I mean, it's going to be hard to do, but yeah, this latest news that came out yesterday, the Suns are finalizing a deal that'll send CP3, the Air Summit, and some draft picks over to the Wizards for Bradley Beal, and of course other draft picks as well. The swapping and such, but nothing's really official yet because I guess they're trying to find a third team for CP3 to go to. So we'll see. That's probably one of the reasons why the trade isn't official yet. Of course, the Wizards also have said we'll send guard Jordan Goodwin and Isaiah Todd to the Suns too once it's all official. But Sid, what did you think? I mean, this deal kind of came out of nowhere in the middle of Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all you, belated Father's Day to all you dads out there, and father figures and single dads and such. So. But yeah, what do you think about that trade? This would-be trade, I should say, for
if you're Bradley Beal, it's about damn time, right? Because how many years that we talked about, like, and this goes back to when we were doing a radio show back in the studio for the last 5 years of Bradley Beal. His name's being on a train, like he could be traded to the Lakers or the Clippers or some other team. He finally got his wish. Washington's hitting the Wizards are hitting their reset button. And we'll see what happens with them. They still have a long way to go as far as getting back to contending for the playoffs. But for the Phoenix Suns, it's a great lineup on paper. You have Bradley Beal that could take – he's one of the best young scorers in the game. He's been in the league for almost a decade now, but still, he's one of the best lethal scorers in the NBA. You pair him up with Kevin Durant. That is deadly, no pun intended. Of course, you have Devin Booker. I know, there's not enough basketballs to go around. I get it. My concern is maybe this move sets up for another move. We'll see. But right now, Lakina, unless you know something I don't, who's going to be the point guard for that team? We know it's not Chris Paul. And I was thinking about could they put Devin Booker at point guard? But he's not a point guard. He's a scorer. So I'll ask you and to our Sports Zone Chicago listeners and viewers, and hit us up in the comment section, who's going to be the point guard for the Phoenix Suns when next season starts? Will they get Kyrie Irving? Will they get Fred VanVleet? I know Phoenix has new ownership now and they're making their splash, but will it be those two guys that I mentioned, or will they get somebody else that we're not looking at yet?
It's going to be interesting what Frank Vogel does. I mean, there's no depth there right now for that Suns squad, and that was one of the reasons why they weren't able to get over the hump and win the championship. So I'm a little concerned about this trade. I mean, look, they got a big three though too. And remember, you got to go all the way back to 1988, 1989 when the Suns had a trio that averaged at least 20 points a game. That was in the 88-89 season. You want to name the players, Sid?
Kevin Johnson. I'm not on Google, by the way. Kevin Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie Johnson.
Yep.
I think he won Sixth Man of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, that year.
Yes.
And Tom Chambers.
Ding, 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 ding. Hey! Right. All right. So yeah. So that Beal, of course, would join KD and Booker as the new big three. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what the Suns do here. But yeah, like you said, I mean, they got new ownership there. I'm sure they're gonna want to make a big splash. They already got rid of Monty Williams. They brought on Frank Vogel. They made this trade that probably won't be official till probably later this week with Beal. So once they find another dance partner, I guess the Wizards, find another partner. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, as far as CP3, if you saw him on GMA early this morning, he actually was on his way to New York, to talk about his autobiography. GMA, he said he was surprised, of course. Who does expect to get traded, especially when you're in mid-flight across the country? But
right.
It'll be interesting. Look, I'm sure I heard the Clippers names being floated around, perhaps maybe that third team and a couple of others. So I doubt he's going to want to stay with the Wizards. So I'm sure he's going to want to go someplace where he can contend because he has a no trade. So the Clippers have been floated around, perhaps maybe the Lakers too. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to be the second part of that deal for CP3.
Yeah, Chris Paul, we all know that he's good friends with LeBron James. And, of course, there have been rumors that Kyrie Irving, if he doesn't sign his contract with the Dallas, that he may join the Lakers. But if somehow a deal could be worked out for CP3 to join Los Angeles, that goes the Kyrie Irving experiment with him reuniting with LeBron. But Chris Paul will work there. I heard some people saying that Chris Paul could work in Boston. I don't think that's going to happen now with this trade. So I think that, like I said, the Clippers, I can see it. Like I said, Russell Westbrook did a great job for them last year after being traded from the Lakers to the Clippers. But it does make sense on paper with Chris Paul going to the Clippers. But how many games he's going to play? Because they already have a problem with your two main stars that you cannot move because of their contracts. I'm talking about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. You know, they miss almost half seasons now. So in particular, Kawhi Leonard. So it looks good on paper, but the health is going to be a major concern for the Clippers, especially if you acquire Chris Paul. Will it be a great addition on paper? Yes, but how many games he's going to play with those big three? That's the question.
Well, and that's going to be interesting, though, and I think that's really going to be kind of like the wild card. How many games is he going to play? So you already got two players that can't play a full schedule. So I'm wondering, okay, what's going to be the point here? So I'll be interested to see what he does. I mean, it's going to be kind of, it's going to be fascinating to see where he does if they do make that trade, for the Clippers, and maybe they may have to move some draft picks again. So I don't know. I mean, look, it's going to be interesting, but yeah, I'm wondering, okay, Tyronn Lue might have a little tough go at that because you already got, like you said, you got two players that don't really play a full season. So, you really want another one. So, I don't know. It's going to be tough, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Another player that could be on the move is Draymond Green. Of course, the news came out earlier today that he's going to decline his option to rejoin the Golden State Warriors, which means that Draymond Green is a free agent. And I don't have the official odds in front of me, but since Rich Paul is his agent, the Los Angeles Lakers will be on the top of that list. And Lakina, I will give you one team that should consider acquiring his services. Can you name that team? I was thinking about it this morning.
Are they in the East?
Yes.
I know you're not saying the Bulls.
No.
Oh, okay. Boston?
No, they could use it, but no.
Okay, another one. Cleveland, maybe?
No.
Oh, Philadelphia. It just came to me. Philadelphia?
No, they could use it, but that wasn't the first thing that came to my mind as far as the East is concerned.
Oh, Miami.
Yes, and here's why. You losing Udonis Haslem to retirement, and perhaps Kevin Love too. The only big man they have is Bam Adebayo, and even though he's a great player, we all know that he cannot hold down Nikolai Jokic. We saw that in the finals. Cody Zeller couldn't do dilly poo against him either. No one can. But Draymond Green could bring some much-needed toughness to that Miami Heat squad. We talk about Heat culture and the way they play. They grind it out for you defensively. And what better player to help carry out that culture, that message one more time than Draymond Green? Yes, Miami still needs another shooter to go with Jimmy Butler. You need another star to go there with him. But Draymond Green, I think, could be a great fit for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I think they definitely need that, especially with the experience too of having 4 championships to his credit. So I think that can only help them for a lot of guys on that squad too. I mean, it's different to have a floor guy. Of course, yes, it's great to have the coaches, your executives, they've got multiple titles, but it's good to have that player on the floor that can kind of sort of be that floor general, to kind of be that leader and such. So yeah, I can definitely see that. But like you said, I mean, I don't know what the money situation is for them, but I could definitely use to talk about Draymond. I mean, he is unrestricted, so the Warriors can't match anything. So there's another big test for new GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. So we just see, does he try to maybe make a play for Draymond at a reduced price with more incentives? I don't know, but it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I want to bring up the Philadelphia angle of this, Lakina. You brought up the 76ers, of course, now with new head coach Nick Nurse. On paper, you can see Draymond Green playing with Joel Embiid. Of course, he'll help Joel Embiid, with that toughness and bring that experience to that Philadelphia squad. Do you think that Nick Nurse can coach a guy like Draymond Green.
That's going to be the thing. I mean, look, I don't think he had to deal with any of that. I mean, Giannis isn't like that, so he really didn't have to deal with too much of something like that. So it's going to be interesting if he does, if Draymond does go to Philly, like how would that look, for Nick Nurse? So that's going to be interesting if he decides to go to no, Philly. But yeah, Miami I think would be a perfect spot for him. I think we'll see what he does. I'm sure he's going to want to go someplace where there's a contend, that he can win another ring and perhaps maybe prove the folks in the Bay Area wrong that he can win a title without Steph and Clay. So you've got you got the choice between Philadelphia and the Heat. Will it be money? Will it be incentives? But yeah, it's gonna be to see what's important to Draymond at this point in his career, being like 30. I think he's 33, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check his age real quick. So yeah, so he's getting up there in age. So yeah, I think he's definitely gonna want some place to win another title.
Now I'll bring up one more team. I don't know if it's going to work, especially with these two players having had beef before. But Kendrick Perkins actually said this on TV, and he said it on his social media post last week. Draymond Green to the Phoenix Suns. Remember him and Durant had that beef during 2019. When they made that trip to the NBA Finals before losing to the Toronto Raptors. Now Phoenix can use Draymond Green. I don't know how much they're gonna have left to sign him, but could you see Draymond Green on the Phoenix Suns?
I mean, well, we heard about some of the beef that happened with KD was there with Draymond at Golden State. So I'm wondering, like, is that going to be? Will they have enough money though? I mean, that's going to be another issue too, because I'm sure Draymond's going to want a big contract, even if it's even if it has to have a lot of incentives in it. So I'm wondering, I don't know, like, can he and KD kind of push their differences aside? I don't know what I mean, but again, we'll see. I mean, look, there's still a lot. He'll have his pick of places. Just it's gonna be depending on which where he ends up signing. It should be interesting to see where he goes. Now, another top player that could be on the move is Damian Lillard. He's been making the rounds, of course, at Weber State. He played an alumni game there. Of course, he graduated from there some years back and played there. There have been maybe some moves that could be made among some of the other squads. We talked about it. Either the Los Angeles teams, maybe the Suns, maybe some teams in the East that probably could get a haul to Portland to give back to him. But I don't know. I mean, do you think Dame Lillard could be on the move? I mean, I know he said that he wants to win, but I think he realizes it's not going to be not going to happen over there in Portland. So what do you do if you're Damian Lillard?
If I was in Dame's shoes, I would try my best to get out of there, because you look at the West has been tough on him throughout his whole career. Yes, they did take advantage of some injuries for other teams. I believe that was back in 2018 when they made it to the Western Conference Finals before they got swept by the eventual, at that time, world champion Golden State Warriors. Him and CJ McCollum, they were a great tandem, but just did not work with those teams in the Western Conference. Now, I think you can get a decent package from Boston, especially if Boston cannot re-sign Jaylen Brown. That'll be a great piece to get back. But if you're Boston, will you ask for Anthony Simons and a couple of draft picks as well? I think Dame will fit Boston, and that'll definitely put Boston over the top. So I think what's the parameters if those two teams could make a deal? Well, we don't know.
Yeah, and especially if Jaylen Brown does leave, so like I can't see him, staying there too. Especially if Dame does, figure out how to, maybe trade him to the Celtics, perhaps maybe get a haul for him. But I mean, I saw Chris Hayes' tweet, who of course is an NBA insider for Turner, and I'm wondering that he wants to change his studio, talking about Dame, but like I said, I mean, well, is there a place where you can go that perhaps maybe contend and win a championship? He's probably just going to have to go east. So, I mean, maybe Philadelphia, maybe, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what their cap situation is. I know some people said the Knicks because they got a lot that they can, offer. They got all those draft picks. So, do you get, give some of those draft picks, and get a nice little haul price, maybe adding assignments to that mix. But again, I mean, do you really think Dame and Tibbs are going to get along? I don't know about that, but
yeah, he'll look great in the Knicks uniform if you're a Knicks fan. But like you said, can him and Tibbs get along? I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be the number one question. Maybe Cleveland, perhaps. I guess maybe will he fit that system? Who knows? Cleveland, they didn't really show too much of a fight in that Knicks series. I don't know. I mean, like I said, he's kind of really limited on where he can go. So, with cap space and such. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I know he wants to change the scenery, but he's kind of limited on where he can go.
Yeah, like I said, New York is a possibility. Philadelphia, Boston. So, like you said, after that, it's not too many teams that are left. So we'll see what happens with that. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, the Monday edition. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. We're on Sports Zone Chicago every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, talking sports, music, entertainment, and more. Lakina, let's keep the conversation going about the NBA. Let's bring it home to Chicago and talk about the Bulls. Of course, Kobe White is a restricted free agent this summer, of course. Nikolai Vucevic is an unrestricted free agent, of course, with the pending trade of Bradley Beal. What does this mean for the futures of Zach LaVine and a free agent at this time next year, DeMar DeRozan? If you're Arturas Karnisovas and GM Mark Eversley, do you explore trading either one of those guys? And let's be honest here, they're up against the salary cap already. If you bring the exact team back, you'll be slightly over, and they're not worth bringing back to be slightly over the salary cap. You know that owner Jerry Reinsdorf has not done the things pouring more resources to make the team win. He's not going to go over the salary cap. He hasn't done it then. He sure as hell is not going to do it now. And you shouldn't know with this average team.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where I know there were reports that maybe they've already signed Vooch to a new 3-year deal. Don't know if that's true or not, but we'll wait and see if that that gets confirmed. But look, I mean, the Bulls cap situation, of course, we all know they do have cap issues. So, I really don't know what's going to be the thing here. I know that the cap is supposed to go up a little bit next season, so maybe they may have a little bit of money to play. We'll talk about the Bulls, but will Jerry Reinsdorf will want to spend that money? We know that we can't even they can't even get the White Sox to spend $20 million or more than $10 million on a player, or $15 million on a player. So I don't know if that'll be the case with that. So I mean, if you try to maybe see if you can probably maybe get probably one of those free agents, or we'll talk about that in a second. But you try to maybe you may have to be a little bit more creative with the with the salaries and the contracts. So make sure it has a lot of incentives and whatnot. I really don't know where this team's gonna be. So I don't know. I mean, do you try to trade Zach? I know the Zach rumors and stuff like that. I know DeRozan. I know we've had, John Zagul from Sports Talk Chicago. I know he said that maybe they should, just, rip the team down and start over. But here's the thing when I say, to folks that want to rip the team down, do you want to end up like Orlando? Orlando's been stripping things down for the last 15 years. They haven't been able to get out of no way. Now we'll see what Paolo Banchero. I know they have another top 5 pick. We'll see if they can, perhaps maybe build on that. But do you really want to end up like Orlando? And you're not going to be patient for a rebuild. You're not. We just went through a rebuild a couple of years ago. You're not going to do it. So for anybody that wants to say, hey, let's strip the team down. Okay, well, look where Orlando is. You want to end up like them, in about 10 or 15 years? But yeah,
Charlotte.
Charlotte. Well, we'll see if that changes with new ownership. But but yeah, they've been in the same spot for the last about 10, 12 years. So do you really think as Bulls fans, do you really want to have to deal with another rebuild? No, you don't. Stop saying you will. You won't. But I digress.
Yeah. How do you think it's funny? It's a coincidence, just like the White Sox, Lakina, that they should do it, but they're not going to do it. You know why? Here's why, especially focusing on the Bulls situation. AK and Mark Eversley were brought here to win right away. Should they tear some of it down? Yes, but they're not going to, because ownership gave them in order to have this team be competitive and get back to the playoffs, which they did last year. But this past season, they fell short, not winning that second playing game. As we said before, if they would have beaten the Miami Heat to get in, they were going to do what the Miami Heat did and go to the NBA Finals. The Bulls are not that good. You still have the situation with Lonzo Ball. Hopefully he'll play, but I don't think he will. I don't want to say that, but you got to be realistic when you look at that situation. And here's the thing with Zach LaVine. I still think they'll trade DeMar because he has 1 year left on his contract, and that's attractive to a lot of teams that want to make that push to get a player like him to win now. But going back to Zach LaVine, what do you think? What is his real trade value? And after seeing what we know about the Bradley Beal trade to Phoenix, if you the Bulls, can you get a little bit more for Zach LaVine? Given back, you gave him that $200 million contract around this time last summer.
Well, the money part I think is going to be hard to match, but again, we'll see. But which team do you want to go to the Knicks and perhaps maybe get a Julius Randle? Do you want to what's another team? Another team that they're talking
I
about.
heard Sacramento again, but do you really think that Sacramento really want to do that?
Yeah,
really?
Who
That's
else
just
Sacramento?
me.
Well, who in Sacramento do you want to get back? Do you want to get back I don't know. You want to get
Harrison Barnes.
Harrison
He's
Barnes,
an older player now, but
who was a little bit older, and maybe a Buddy Hield. I mean, remember he was the subject of trade talks too the last few years. So there's really nowhere that the Bulls can go if they try to maybe they try to do trade tomorrow. But again, are you going to get equal value back? You might, but you don't know how that player is going to fit with this Bulls squad. So it's just one of those things where, look, no one really knows what's going to happen in that Eastern Conference. I mean, that Eastern Conference, like I said, we'll see if CP3 ends up going east. Will Draymond Green go east? I mean, there's still like a lot to. Could this team, teams like the Knicks get better? Sure, but that's if they're going to have to make some moves too. So yeah, there's just so many places. And look, I know that Lonzo's situation has been very tough for the Bulls squad. I think that's basically like wasting money, unfortunately. But we'll see if he's back next year, but I doubt it. But it is what it is with that. But yeah, a partial tear down. I mean, do you think? Look, you're still going to be in the same spot even if you do a partial tear down. So I'm kind of like that point where, like, look, no one knows what's going to happen. We'll see if AK I'm sure they're going to try, but I think their hands are tied because we know that he doesn't want to spend money. I'm talking about Ryan, so doesn't want to spend money to get a shooter and perhaps maybe get especially if they do end up losing either Kobe White or Io. I'm sure one or both of them will be back, but it's just like I'm at that point where I'm kind of like, okay, show me what you can do and try, because look, they don't have no draft picks this year, so what more can they do?
Yeah. Here's what I want to ask you as we wrap up our NBA talk for this half hour. The NBA draft is on Thursday. Do you think the Bulls will make a deal on Thursday? And if so, who goes? Because I think if you trade DeMar DeRozan, it depends on who you get back. I think this team can still be competitive. I think if you trade Zach LaVine, I think in many Bulls fans' eyes, including yours truly, that signals that you're going to have some type of teardown.
And I don't think Bulls fans deep down want that. And I think if
you I don't think so either.
If you trade, Zach, I know that contract. I know DeMar. If you trade that contract, I know it's a little bit more desirable to some teams, but that just says that you're gonna suck next year. So, and I don't think Bulls fans want that. You can say that you do, but you don't. So I don't want to hear people say if they do trade either one of them and they're not very good next year. Well, look, this is what some of y'all wanted, so don't get mad if they're not very good next year. So I don't know what to tell Bulls fans. I mean, Bulls Twitter's a pain in the ass. You'll probably worse than Chiefs Twitter, and that's saying something. But they're like the worst because they try to say, oh, well, let's trade this guy and this guy and this for this guy. I'm like, look, if it was really that simple, I'm sure AK never would have done it. So I don't know where your mindset is. You're playing with your trade machines again, and it's a little absurd. But whatever.
But do you think the Bulls will make a move before Thursday's NBA draft?
It might be a minor move, maybe to perhaps get a second round pick. Okay. Maybe move maybe get a pick from next year, and then maybe perhaps make a trade to try to get into, at least it could sort of be there. But I don't see anything happening. I just don't.
All right, we'll see what happens. Don't forget the NBA draft is this Thursday at 7:00 Chicago time on ESPN and ABC. Victor Wembanyama is expected to be the first pick of the NBA draft, going to the San Antonio Spurs. Lakina, are you excited about this year's draft, or you just going to bypass it? Because the only other players they're out there for me is Brandon Miller. I want to see if he goes number 3, or will he drop down a little bit due to the situation that he went through last season.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be kind of an interesting thing. I think a lot of people are going to be looking out for that, especially with all the situation that went on down there in Alabama. I'll see. Look, there's always been like a nice little like time killer. I always call it. You kind of keep it in the background since it's going to be like the next thing until the NHL draft, next week. So, for me, I think this is going to be sort of like the thing. And like we've been saying, I mean, look, it's going to be interesting to see where some of these guys go. We know Wembanyama is going to go to San Antonio. And we know, like, I think there's going to be another question. Where will Brandon Miller go? Will he slide because of what happened? I don't think he will, but, we'll see. I mean, there's still a couple other players. Jerace Walker's another name I've been, looking at. Cam Whitmore, Grady Dick, from Kansas. We'll see where he goes. Anthony Black, Scott Henderson, Jerace Walker from Houston. I mean, those are some of the names that I'm looking forward to because a lot of guys I've watched during the college hoop season for most of them last year at the very least. So I want to see where some of those guys go, and perhaps maybe some of them probably didn't do the right decision. Perhaps maybe should have gotten out of the draft. But again, I digress.
Well, Zach Edey made the right decision. He's going back to Purdue.
Yeah, probably. Like Anthony Black is one of those guys. We'll see where he goes. So it's going to be interesting to see where some of these guys go. I always look forward to the draft. I know, look, there are not a lot of big names, obviously, but look, it's great to see where these guys are going to go. And look, Jordan Hawkins, fresh off a championship, I'm sure he's probably going to go top 15 or top 20. So yeah, I'm looking to see where some of those guys go.
All right. As once again, the NBA draft is this Thursday at 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch it on ESPN and or ABC. Last break of the show coming up. We have Lakina's wrap up in golf as the 123rd U.S. Open came to a close yesterday in Los Angeles. We'll get her Cisco and Ebro review on that. We'll have some other fun stuff. We'll get into that hockey, Lakina. That celebration was one to behold, and we'll get a quick discussion on that. And we'll have Old School TV Monday as our salute to Black Music Month continues. You're really going to love this show today. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Sorry. Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. This is our last segment for today. I am Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can find me at Kingdom McGee on the Twitter and at Kingdom McGee on the IG.
We have less than 25 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. You want to get those last minute questions or comments in there in our comment section. You can do so by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, the 123rd U.S. Open commenced in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Country Club in the North Course, and Wyndham Clark wins his first major. He's 25 years old. Actually, it's a public course. I'm talking about that Los Angeles Country Club. And he's 29. He went to the University of Oregon. If you know his story, he's from Scottsdale, Arizona. His mother, who introduced us to the game, passed away suddenly at Oregon. Was actually on the verge of quitting. He was actually on the verge of quitting the game, but his dad and his sister, who he's very close with, who were both there. If you saw him after he sucked that putt on 18, he was they were there to help him celebrate. And it was just a very sweet moment. He does have a title of North Carolina from last month. So this wasn't just a guy that came out of nowhere. This guy actually had been buzzed about for the last few years. Got his first PGA title last month in North Carolina, and just winning the U.S. Open. Holding off guys like Rory and Scotty Scheffler and those guys. I mean, Rory did make it interesting, but there were just a couple of bad shots on 14, that kind of stuck in that very tough top part of that rough, that kind of did him in. Ricky Fowler just didn't have a good, final round. He, went all the way down to tie for fifth. Cameron Smith, made it interesting too. He was a clubhouse leader for a little bit, but finished in fourth place, so another solid finish for him in a major. He'll be the defending Open championship coming up next month, and like I said, I mean, just like a guy, really, a good guy in Wyndham Clark, and like I said, already has a title to his belt from earlier this year. So, I mean, look, I know people are kind of wondering, is everyone's looking for that next Tiger, the next big star, but I think, look, when you see guys, I think he's like the sixth different winner of a major in the last couple of years. I mean, look, you gotta kind of embrace some of these guys, and just they're. Just like like I said, just a great moment for Wyndham Clark, getting his first major, especially because I think that's a public course, that North course in Los Angeles. This is US Open debut. He actually already has $7.2 million to 2 career wins in the PGA. Yeah. That's across, the only guy to do that was, of course, Matt Fitzpatrick did a couple of years ago at the Open. We won the Open a couple of years ago. His best finish actually tied for 15th at 75th, I should say, at the 2021 PGA Championship. So a nice way to make your US Open debut by winning the whole thing.
Yeah, Lakina, I think it was Wyndham or Clark. I saw a couple of clips of it yesterday. Did you check out the shot on 14? I forgot who it was.
I think it was.
But it was a great shot. It went from long distance. Yeah, it was Clark. Okay, it was Clark. So I stand correct. Yeah. It was Clark's shot on 14. I forgot how long they traveled, but it went directly right on the green on his first shot. I was like, wow, this is amazing. You mentioned that's a public course just right in the outskirts of downtown Los Angeles. I will say this, that the scenery of that golf course where they placed it was very strategic, and it looks nice for television. I think NBC, I don't have the ratings in front of me. I'm sure they did well, as you mentioned, that they were going into prime time because they were starting late on the East Coast and early out there on the West Coast. But that scenery for that golf course looked nice. But I know that Roy McIlroy, I think Fowler too, was complaining about the course getting tricky as later that you go as far as the later rounds. But at least on TV, it looked nice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I saw his. I saw Fowler's comments. I know he had that bad shot in the opening. I think it was the second hole that kind of, like I said, that kind of did him in. And then other players were kind of complaining about the setup of it. I mean, look, it's a U.S. Open. I mean, I know Rory's got a couple of these. So I think he knows how U.S. Open is supposed to play. So
Yeah.
they did move some holes around some of the divots. Those divots were very deep in some spots. I can kind of understand why he felt that way, but look, the USGA, look, they don't want to make it easy for anybody, especially even for some for top guys like Rory and guys like that, and Scheffler too. I know Rom had I think he finished like tied for like 30th, so but he actually had a nice showing there. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a U.S. Open course. I mean, it's just like hopefully we'll have our buddy Chrissy Mecca and her fiance Chris Gilman, who we'll see if he can kind of give us a little bit more synopsis on what happened over the weekend. But yeah, I think this is sort of definitely gonna be one of those things where like it's gonna be at Pinehurst next year. Talk about the U.S. Open, so it's just like one of those things where look, it happens. Look, they weren't going to make it easy for you. The USGA wasn't going to make it easy for anybody. Look, Wyndham Clark, to his credit, made the putts and the shots because he only had 138 yards in that 14th hole that he was already in the green. So just smack that ball. Especially, I think he saw what happened with Rory in the 14th, just a little bit ahead. I think he probably realized, you know what, I'm going for it, and look, it paid dividends for him.
Yeah, we talk about this with Tiger Woods and other great athletes. When you're ahead, you want to go in for the kill, no pun intended. You have to separate yourself from the rest of the competition. And with the game of golf is individualized. It's you against the course, not against the other players, but it's you against the course. Like you said, I think Christine's soon-to-be husband, Chris, can explain a little bit better than I can, but just from an outsider looking in, is you against the course, and how well can you adjust, and how fast can you get the putt in? Because after a couple of tries, it gets real tough for you.
Yeah, especially if you're in a U.S. Open course. I mean, look, look, you can go from getting a birdie to probably getting a double bogey, and just like that. That's kind of how it is at the U.S. Open. So, look, I can understand why Rory and some others felt that it was a little bit too hard, but I guess it's supposed to be hard. It's the U.S. Open, so they did what look. They did a great job. That course did. I was afraid for Wyndham because all the folks were kind of like on 18 as he got closer to clinch it. Everyone kind of like was starting to crowd around him, and I was like, and that was actually intentional because they wanted to do that to kind of bring like a little bit more of the kind of open atmosphere. So I was a little bit afraid that he was going to get a little, gonna get a little tightened up a little bit, but he didn't. So to his credit, but yeah, to kind of bring the atmosphere out. But yeah, he did it. Look, he did his thing, and look, he got his first major. So look, could this lead to more? I mean, look, it's too early to say, but like I said, he already has a tournament win this year. So from a little like earlier last month. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he can do.
Yep. So congratulations to Mr. Clark on winning the 123rd edition of the U.S. Open. Second City Sports you're listening to on Sports Zone Chicago. We're live in Living Color. Sid Lakina here with you. We have Old School TV Monday, saluting Black Music Month straight ahead. Lakina, that hockey, as you mentioned, Connor Bedard's name will be called around, I believe, sometime next week. But the new Stanley Cup champion Las Vegas Golden Knights, they had their parade down the strip last Saturday night. I saw a couple of highlights of it, Lakina. I don't know if J.R. Smith, the now former NBA player, but he started a trend with if you win a championship, take your shirt off at the rally. But we saw it once again last Saturday night, and those folks down there in Vegas went crazy. How those a good rally, a good parade. But the Vegas Golden Knights, they did it big, as the kids would say, with their celebration down the strip.
Well, yeah, big shocker, right? I mean, of course,
right.
you win LA. I know they did something similar with the Aces last year, WNBA team who won last year. They did something similar. They kind of did a parade along the strip. So of course it was going to be big. They were going to do it big, and there's going to be some drinking, day drinking going on too. So of course, that was it was expected. I mean. I would have been disappointed there wasn't any of that, where shenanigans in Vegas. So why not? But yeah, I mean, I think that the Vegas fans have embraced this team, and we'll see if they can repeat. But yeah, but they all, of course, you always got that one of those couple of players that of course probably had a few before the parade. So of course that happens. Of course, you're in Vegas. That's kind of like a requirement. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, look, it was a great parade, and I saw some clips of it. But yeah, it was really, really, definitely very Vegas. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. All right, a couple of sports media nuggets to pass along. J.J. Watt, who finished his career last year with the Arizona Cardinals, who retired, he says that, according to a report, that he's looking for part-time work in the TV world. NBC, CBS, and NFL Network are all interested in his services.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely have his pick. I think he could do. But look, he was an two-time All Big Ten at Wisconsin.
Mhm.
Of course, we all saw his accomplishments in the NFL. So he'll definitely have his choice. I think. Could NBC perhaps use it for both their Sunday Night Football and perhaps their Big Ten coverage? I mean, he went to Wisconsin. Why
Yeah.
not? I mean, could ESPN? I mean, with all the the potential layoffs that might still happen within the next week or two. I mean, I'm sure they're going to find some money for him. At even though he's going to do part time, but they'll be just see what happens with that. I mean, Fox, I mean, I'm sure they're gonna look, no shade to TB, Terry Bradshaw, love him to pieces, but you gotta wonder, is he kind of like, might be, on his last, years doing that show. Same thing with
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson, who's only there like maybe part-time anyway.
Yeah.
I know they got the other pregame show with Carissa Thompson and them. Maybe they'll start him there. Perhaps maybe get him to the big show. But yeah, I mean, look, he'll definitely have his choices of spots. But yeah, I think he's great at it. Look, he's a great follow on Twitter. We've seen him do some other stuff, and I know he's done a podcast with his not TJ but Derek Watt, his other brother, and he's actually pretty. We know he's a pretty engaging personality. So
Yeah.
look, he'll definitely be fit into wherever he decides to go.
I'm interested to see what kind of role that J.J. Watt would have if the NFL Networks decide to pick him up, because we all know about the Michael Irvin situation. For those of you that don't know, Google is your friend. We won't get into deep.
Too deep.
We won't get into it deep here. But even though Michael Irvin has been exonerated, you think that we assume that his future is over as far as NFL Network. We don't know, but assuming that J.J. Watt goes over there, you think they'll throw him in there with Kurt Warner and Coach Steve Mariucci and Rich Eisen. You would think.
Yeah, CBS, I read that CBS is a favorite, though. I mean, there's a lot of ways he can go. He can probably do a studio thing, and perhaps either they do it on the CBS network or Sports Network, or do it on the main show. Could maybe, and since he's going to do it part-time, I think maybe do like a 6-man thing with him and Burleson and Boomer and Chris Sims, of course Coach Cower, of course JB as well. That could be a nice little spot for him, since he's going to do it So he was saying he always wants to do it part-time, at least for now. So we'll see what he does with that. NFL Network's kind of the same thing. I think the way it's set up, I think it might be a better spot for him. Like you said, with the Michael Irvin, so we won't get into the Irvin situation, but I think he can definitely be kind of like right there too. So yeah, I mean, look, he'll have, like I said, he'll have his choices. I think it'll be interesting to see what he where he decides, but I'm sure he's going to be great at it. And look, I'm looking forward to see what next chapter of him is going to be in the TV side.
All right, another sports media news: the AJ Brzezinski podcast, Foul Territory, sort of has a new home. I believe it starts this week. The first hour will be on Watch Stadium, now fully owned by Jerry Reinsdorf and crew. It's going to be airing from noon. The first hour will be airing from noon to 1 Central Standard Time, while the second hour from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time will still air on YouTube.
Yeah, I think if you're age, I think this is probably in the cards too, especially with Reinsdorf. I know he and Reinsdorf are still cool. I know that. But yeah, I think again, I've listened to the podcast. It's a great podcast. If you guys haven't listened to it or watched it, check it out on YouTube. But yeah, he's interviewed some of the top players. He shares all types of stories and such. Of course, that this format fits him perfectly. So I'm not surprised that. And now you got more eyeballs coming in with Watch Stadium. The first hour is going to be on Watch Stadium. So if you see any big interviews that he has during that first hour, you'll be able to watch it there on Watch Stadium, on the Watch Stadium app. So yeah, it's going to be Look, I'm looking forward to seeing more eyeballs. I'm sure they will be tuned into his podcast.
Yeah, and real quickly, Keenan, I don't know if you checked this out, but they have a series they call with the Legends series. Of course, I know they have a deep relationship with the MLB Players Association, but they had about 3 or 4 guests on there. I know, especially if you're a Cubs fan, they had on the episode last week with John Lester, and they really go into what happened at his tenure with Boston, going through cancer, and then what happened once he got here to Chicago. That was very good. The Johnny Damon one was very good. I know they got a couple others coming up, but I think it's called Living Legends. I'm not sure, but is in that realm that interview recent retired players that have retired for the last decade or so. And so that's very good. Of course, Kim Rosenthal still has his own podcast within that umbrella as well. I think it airs like once or twice a week.
Yeah, so yeah, that'll be interesting to see what more stuff that he has coming down the pike now. We didn't get a chance to say this, do this, Sid, but Patrick Sharp has been named new president of player ops over his former team. Well, the first team that not the Blackhawks, but the Philadelphia Flyers, the first team that he played for. And not a big surprise, he'll be a special advisor to the organization. There, of course, your former teammate Claude Giroux, of course, is the GM now. And apparently they actually wanted him to be part of a kind of a 3-man booth with Chris Vosters and newly hired Darren Pang, but he decides that he wants to. And plus, remember, his wife and I think his kids, they live in Philadelphia. They don't live in Chicago. So. So I think that was kind of more of a decision for him. Listen to our guys at CHGO, CHGO Blackhawks guys. And they said that I think it was Greg Boyce, who we just had on the show about a month ago, said that television wasn't really something that he wanted to do. I'm talking about Sharpie.
Yeah.
So he always wanted to do perhaps maybe an executive or something like that. So this will be his first go. And that's not to say that he won't come back here to the Blackhawks at some point, perhaps maybe do some stuff, maybe be an assistant, or something, but like Hossa is, but Mary Hossa is. But I think in this case, like I said, this is the first team he played for. His family still lives in that area. I think this is probably the best spot for him, at least for right now.
It is a great spot for him. He'll get his feet wet on the new GM, Danny Briere. And we know that Philadelphia has been struggling over the last few years just to be respectable and get back into that Stanley Cup playoff chase. And, you have head coach John Tortorella, who's a head case, according to some. He's a big personality, according to others. But, you hope that the Philadelphia Flyers will get back into some sort of respectability in the hockey world. And this is, like you said, this is a chance for Patrick Sharp to get his feet wet within the other side of the business. He can relate to the players and he can get some insight into what needs to be done in the organization. Who really this news really hurts?
Who? Oh,
our girl Rachel Ray Kopchak, the host of the House of Hockey podcast. So I think she may be becoming a secretly a Philadelphia Flyers fan.
maybe we'll see.
We gotta get her back on the show soon, perhaps after the draft.
Yeah, we'll try to get her back on. Perhaps maybe if we can't get her after the draft, maybe try to get her back before the season starts. Next season starts. But yeah, him and Briere, like I said, they played together, of course, for many years before he got. I'm talking about Sharp. He got traded to the Blackhawks, and look, it'll be interesting. This is going to be. I know Briere's been executive there for the last few years, and he was kind of like groomed and to such being now the GM. So. And especially having one of his good friends, Sharpie, back there, he can kind of learn the ins and outs. And like I said, I know this is a tough loss. I know for a lot of Blackhawks fans, especially our girl Rachel and me too, because I really liked. I thought he was actually really good with Chris. Well, not even just that. Not just that, but he was actually he actually showed some strides there, and actually would have gotten better if they had paired him up with Chris and with Panger. So kind of a bummer, but I get it. I get why he did it, but look, good luck to him in Philadelphia because they really need it.
Yes, they definitely need it. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We're heading down the home stretch. You have a couple of minutes left in our program. Excuse me. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. All right, Lakina, let's end the show on a good note as we always do. As we do every Monday. It is now time for Old School TV Monday. We're headed down the whole stretch as we salute old school TV shows during the month of June. It is Black Music Month. Lakina, I'm taking you back and our listeners and viewers to a time where you were proud to watch Black entertainment television. If you know what I'm talking about, it's very obvious. Video Soul. That's right. Yes. Video Soul was a 2-hour-long American music video program that originally aired on BET from June 26 of 1981 until September of 1996. The program was devoted to showcasing R&B and soul recording artists and performers' music videos. Video Soul premiered on June 26, 1981. It was originally formatted as a half-hour show. The show is created after MTV refused to play videos by most African American musicians, as MTV made the de facto color policy effective. Both BET and Video Service served as a place for refuge for new African American musical talent. The expanded 2-hour-long premiere version premiered on June 26, 1983, and it aired from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Thursdays. A Top 20 Countdown aired Friday nights from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. Throughout the early to mid-1990s, until the show ended, it aired from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The original host was Virgil Hemphill, but after he left the show, a legendary host named Donnie Simpson became the show's most prominent VJ, and he joined the program. And after it premiered, Sherry Carter joined the program in the 90s, and she also hosted BET's Video LP, a half-hour-long video program. Throughout its run, it was responsible for surprise guests, bringing groups and bands back together, memorable interviews, and a number of up-and-coming artists that had their first interviews on Video Soul.
Yeah, I remember when we first got cable. Like I said, we got cable in 1990. One of the first shows that I saw when the old, not they didn't. It wasn't TV, the TV guide channel. It was just like, I guess, like it was just a guide or something. I forgot what it was. If he had I forgot what
TCI. If you were in the Chicago area back then.
Oh yes, that was that was a big cable company at the time. And look, you're seeing Video Soul, of course. Donnie Simpson kind of was is sort of like synopsis of with that program. Of course, we'll talk about a reboot of it. That's good. I think it's already airing already on BET Plus. But
yes,
you saw some of the various artists and stuff. They showed some of the top videos and R&B. And to some extent hip hop, but that's why they brought on Rap City, because actually they actually didn't play a lot of the hip hop songs on there either. So
now in the beginning they didn't, but once it got to the 90s they did here and there.
They did. Well, yeah, they did. But that's why they brought in Rap City. But as far as you saw New Edition, you saw TLC made one of their first appearances on that show. Who else made their first appearance on there? And In Vogue was, I think that was one of their first TV spots as well. And Donnie Simpson is definitely that guy that kind of makes you feel comfortable. He kind of gives you that, he was that big brother, uncle, that kind of say, here's some of the best videos from, the day. And, number 8, such and such, or number 1, it's, it's, let me think of Ralph Tresvant and Sensitivity. Like it was like number 1 for like 2 weeks on there. But yeah, I mean, look, it was a great show. It was a great show to kind of like kill some time. Especially if there was nothing else on in prime time. Maybe this was stuff, or even in the afternoon. This was a show that kind of, like sort of like gave you update on what was going on and some of the music and such. So it was definitely one of those shows that definitely kind of like changed the the landscape a little bit, especially kind of an answer to it. Once that show started becoming popular, MTV started actually showing some of the featuring Black artists, because Michael Jackson. Remember, he didn't make his national debut not on MTV, but it was actually on Video Soul, and it wasn't because his videos became a big hit on there. That's when MTV decided to bring him on, and other Black artists followed too. So yeah, a lot of little things that kind of like transcended there. But yeah, I really love Video Soul. Was one of my favorites, and I'm glad Donnie Simpson's back for the reboot. Well, we'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm glad
and don't forget too, Michael Jackson had his video Billie Jean played a lot on MTV, because I'm just paraphrasing here. He told MTV, because remember, he was the hottest artist at that time, and Thriller was making records and talking about selling records, and he said to them, if you don't play my video on MTV, we're going to have some issues. So, and like you said, it got played on BET first, and then MTV played it a lot afterwards, because they didn't want to piss off Michael. But also too, you remember that famous New Edition interview in 1990? I watched it last night. Sherry Carter did that famous interview, and there was some tension there. I know I know they're still cool now, and they're still traveling, talking about New Edition, BBD, and Johnny Gill and all of them. But there was some tension there. Of course, remember, those guys were doing their solo projects then. So for those of you that haven't seen it, please go on YouTube. Just type in New Edition interview on Video Soul back in 1990. Yeah, it's a great content to see. But also too, I was watching this interview last night, Lakina. I don't know if you've seen it yet, and I want our listeners and viewers to see it. It was Phyllis Hyman on Video Soul 1991. Type that in your YouTube or search engine box. She was talking about how her videos didn't get played on any other stations at the time. I'm talking about MTV. Remember, VH1 came in the mid to late 80s. I want to say 85, 86. And so I know certain black artists didn't fit those crossover formats at the time, but she was really talking about how it was a struggle for her to get her music videos played on the other outlets. So she said, I always appreciate the black press and the black media. And Donnie Simpson went into a whole ordeal about MTV. So for those of you that haven't caught it, catch it on YouTube. Phyllis Hyman on Video Soul 1991 interview. It was a great interview. It's actually 2 parts to it. You'll really enjoy it. Yeah, and also there's some full episodes in there as well on YouTube. Certain songs are cut out because of copyrights, copyright, but you still get a good view of music videos, the songs that were popular back then, and certain songs that you have forgotten. Yours surely forgot about this song real quick. I know we up against it, but remember Alexander O'Neal was hot in the late 80s and into the 90s?
Yes.
And do you remember the song? And I had to do some research last night. Of course, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis produced this song in 1993.
I believe. I think they co-wrote it too, if I'm not mistaken.
This song is called "Love Don't Make Sense."
Love Don't Make Sense. Yes, I remember.
I don't remember that song, but I heard it last night. I said, okay, I kind of dig the beat. And then they had a house version today, which sounds even better. But Alexander O'Neal was killing it back in 1993.
Yeah, very underrated. By the way.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but I remember that song. Yeah, it was definitely more of like a housey, music type of thing. So yeah, I love that hit. Some of the best moments, a 16-year-old Usher made one of his first appearances on there. Don't forget, said back in 1993, and I remember because I saw a clip of this after she had passed away just a few weeks ago. Tina Turner, she did a full interview. She talked, she opened up to Donnie about everything she went through, and kind of sort of. Well, and Sherry Carter too. I don't want to ignore her because I thought she was actually really good at co-hosting. Because I think some people thought that maybe bringing her on would kind of mess up everything. But yeah, they had a great chemistry. They actually still keep in touch. I know Donnie did an interview that he and Sherry still keep in touch. But yeah, that Tina Turner interview in '93 was really good. That was right around the time, of course. Let's Look got to do with it came out.
Yeah, the movie.
Yep. And let's see here. I think Aaliyah, of course, remember approaching the anniversary of her death. She made one of her first appearances on there. Aretha Franklin, I think they were doing like some of this big, kind of like this big, I guess like I'm trying to figure out what she did, but she did an interview with Donnie as well back in '94. That was a great interview. It was a 2-parter, so if they have it on YouTube, make sure you guys check that out.
Yeah, Whitney Houston too.
Yep. Oh, yes, I remember that. That was like 90. That's like when The Bodyguard came out, right? That was
91. Yeah, 91, 92.
Well, 91. Well, yeah, 92. Yeah, it was like it might have been right around there, but some great performances too. I know Aaliyah did her performance with Brad and Criss Cross. Let's see.
Jasmine Guy, her interview with Donnie Simpson is also on YouTube on video. So I watched that last night. So check that out. So Donnie Simpson was a great charismatic host. That was BEC's flagship show at that time. You mentioned they brought on Rap City in 1990. Of course, they did other shows later on throughout that decade as they expanded their music programming. But it was a poor man's version of Soul Train, with all due respect, because we talked about 1,000 times again about what Soul Train did as far as the culture and the music is concerned. BET's Video Soul carried the torch of what Soul Train did for broadcast television. They did it for cable television because, like we said, MTV and VH1, they weren't playing black artists like that at the time. Not in the beginning, not into the late 80s, and of course when hip hop was starting to explode. So BET's Video Soul was much needed for the market at the time.
And I'm glad they actually got the BET Plus folks actually got Donnie Simpson to help create the new version of Veil. Donnie Simpson's Video Soul, as they're now calling it. You can catch that on if you subscribe to BET Plus, you guys can definitely check that out. Kind of a similar format, with some of the top of videos and such. So look, I couldn't I know Tyler the Creator, Kendrick Lamar, they play a lot of hip hop. Jasmine Sullivan, Megan Thee Stallion. So they've had a lot of there are a lot of like today's artists too, but nothing beats the original. So, but look, if you want to check it out on BET Plus, you can. But yeah, I think Donnie Simpson, I think is still that he actually still looks great. He's got to be like the 70s now, but he still kind of has that cool charisma, like I said, kind of like that big brother, like uncle, that kind of like, hey, you know what? I'm going to show you some of the top videos, this week, so or today. So yeah, it was definitely a little bit of mixture of you got Bandstand. MTV, TRL. Well, this is before TRL, but like it all kind of like meshed together. It all kind of like copied each other too in some form. So but yeah, I mean, look, they did, kind of split off to Rap City, a couple, like about 1990. And look, I think that this sort of like, kind of in closing, with Music Month. But yeah, I mean, this sort of like, you got the BET Awards going to be coming up on next Sunday. So, well, this Sunday coming up. So it'll be interesting to see, like, I'm sure you got Tyler Perry now now owns the network. So BET now. So we might be seeing Tyler Perry stuff about
Yep, as Lakina was wrapping up there, Tyler Perry is now the new owner of BET. Hopefully, you can get some better programming on there. And hopefully, you show some of those old school programs as well, whether it's on BET Plus or over the air on BET. So, we'll see what happens with that as we close out down another episode of Second City Sports. We salute the old school music TV show from BET's flagship program, Video Soul, for Black Music Month. All right, that's about to wrap it up here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Don't forget, What's Up Cuz will be coming up tonight at 6 p.m. So check those guys out, Coach Lance Sierra and Jason Palmer. They'll take you guys through your evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And of course, you have Sean and Maya in the morning. They'll be back on Wednesday at 9 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be back Second City Sports on Friday at 12 noon, from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll preview the Cubs-Cardinals series from London. The White Sox, they're still going. How bad does it get, or do they turn it around? We'll see what happens with them. And, of course, we'll give you all the latest happenings from the world of sports, perhaps an interview or two along the way. You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you follow Lakina McGee on all social media platforms on Twitter and Instagram. Find her there. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure that you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We are War Media Podcast. We're catch our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you give War Media a follow on all social media platforms at WARR Media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support. For Lakina, I'm Sid. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Don't forget, we will catch you on Friday. And I think Lakina will make her grandioso exit. Take us home, young lady.
All right. Well, I just want to say before I froze, I don't know how much you guys heard before. Apparently, I froze, but I'm glad that Video Soul is coming back. I know, look, if you guys want to check it out, it's on BET Plus. But yeah, I'm gonna be checking out some of the other old episodes because I think those are some of my favorites. So, but with that said, you follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter, and Akina's gonna be in the IG.
All right, I did all the exit closings already, Lakina.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so wrap it up.
All right, so enjoy a lot of the MLB stuff going on. Look, if you're into the WNBA and MLS, NWSL, you guys can check that out too. But you can catch us Friday here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. For Sid, I'm Lakina, and we'll see you Friday.
Go Sox, holla! Perfect re-entry.
Hold on, let
Can you
me
hear me?
see. Wait, hold on.